Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam show. And Ben. Steve and Ben, what's going on, dudes?
Oh, not much. Just surviving this being stuck at home ordeal in the best way I possibly can with a beer.
Did you say a beard? Because I can't really see it.
Where's this beard you speak of?
The D is silent. I meant beer.
Fair enough.
Yes, exactly.
Steve, how are things for you, sir?
Things are very good for me at the moment. I'm having a lot of fun getting everything organized for my new job.
Excellent. Well,
Ben's a little still sore about it all.
That's fine.
That's all right.
Whatever. Yeah. Abandonment issues make people, stronger and all that sort of fun stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, Ben. I feel the same way. He's ridiculous. What's he think he's doing? Going to work.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and I'm very, very happy for him.
I just want to know: did he use his Microsoft discount already to buy his Xbox One X or whatever the heck that is that he just bought? That's the question.
No, not yet.
There's only one way to find out. All right, shall we do a video?
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever. Sure, fine, whatever.
Okay, cool. All right, fine.
So
fine.
Ben is back. I wasn't here with Ben and Steve on Ben's last venture in, but he apparently did episode 34 and did some cool things with the Azure Power Automate and Flow custom client inventory. I did watch the video, just don't know what it. I still don't get it. I don't know. So he's here to. We've had
that video.
Some good feedback, some really great feedback from this, and so. Ben was really taken by one of the comments that was made, and he said, "You know what? I've got an idea. We should come back and talk about some more of this." And so here we are. I think that's what we're going to do, right, Ben?
That's exactly what we're going to do. So yeah, I mean, the video was good. It was sort of just like a last minute idea that I had, and I didn't sort of realize that there'd be that much positive feedback on it. And Phil Brown left a comment, sort of saying, "Is there any way that we could leverage that idea of custom inventory to create custom security groups, similar to how we do in Config Manager?" And basically, as I said, watch this space. This is what we're going to do now. So the idea here is that so we can capture any data that we want. We're doing this in an object-based data collection using JSON as the primary format. And then all we need to do is tweak our Power App flow to do something with the data that we ingest. So if we go to, I've saved everything that we did previously. We go into our Power Automate thing here. So just to run through what we did last time. So we created a HTTP request that has got an endpoint URI that we need to know. It's got a JSON body schema that just sits there and goes, I need to make sure that I have an array that contains a whole bunch of variables or strings. And then what we were doing was for each object that was coming in from that array, we were stepping through each one and then just importing it into a table so that we could then look at it for reporting purposes. But that was it. That's all the flow itself did. So to then do something with that data that we're generating on the client machines, all we need to do is we just need to add another action. So, I mean, Steve and I sort of bounced around a little bit on the many myriad ways that you could do this. And initially, I mean, almost 6 months ago, Steve, we were talking about creating like really complex Azure automation runbooks to just sit there monitoring for changes in things to kick off group membership changes and things like that. And we were sort of thinking maybe let's talk about that, but we sort of realized that we can actually do this a lot easier in Power Automate straight off the bat. So
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So basically what we're going to do, I've cleared out, if I go into the storage account just to show everyone, I've cleared out the data from the last session. So there should be nothing there. Let's just confirm that. Go into tables, Intune training app data, and we've got nothing there. So it's basically just an empty table waiting for stuff. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add that extra action now, and then we'll just run the exact same sample data that we used from the last session. I've added a couple of extra people in just to make it a little more fun. But yeah, so we'll go into action here. So again, this is in the apply to each. So for each object that comes through, in this case, it's each application that's installed on a machine. It's going to step through and do something with that data. So, and I'm completely honest, we've not done this yet. We just feasibly it's possible, or possibly it's feasible.
This is the best kind of content for this channel.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so
will it fail? Will it fail?
we have. All right, so I did try to do it, and I came up with a whole bunch of prompts and things that I sort of thought would be more interesting to look at those. For people who have never done it before, so I just stopped. So we don't know whether it's going to work or not, but I'm pretty sure it will.
Of course it will.
Okay, so I think we found the action just by typing group.
Azure AD, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let me just AAD, Azure AD.
Yep.
Okay, and so here are all the actions that you can do, or like triggers that you can do things with. So obviously the thing we need to do immediately is right there, add user to group. So we're just going to click on that. We need to sign in to. Actually, we need to do something else with this. I'm just going to delete this quickly. We need to have some conditional rules. So in this scenario, I've got like 4 different applications that are coming through into the table. I want to say that if a user has application X, in this case, it's an app called Screen to GIF. If they have that, then they are going to be added to a security group. So we need to add that logic in because at the moment it's just doing nothing. So we'll just go in here and we'll go condition. It's condition. So this is just like an if or else statement. So we need to define the condition. So what value do we want to look for? In this case, we want to go product name. And then we have our option. So is equal, contains, does not contain, things like that. We want to say is equal to. And let me cheat a little bit because I don't remember the name of the application. It should just be Screen to GIF. So we can have as many conditions as we want, but basically we just need to verify whether this passes true or false. And in this case, I know for a fact that some of the sample data has Screen to GIF and some of it doesn't. So we're going to go down to if yes, and we're going to add that action, so that AAD action. We're going to add a user to group. And here we're going to sign in. So this is just creating it's just popped up outside of the screen, but it's basically just an ADAL sign in. It's asking for my username and password. And I probably want to use not that account. Intune.training.
At least we don't need to blur out the session this time.
Yes, yeah.
We've only done that a few
Signing
times.
in now.
Yep.
And so it's just because I've never done this before, it's asking for certain permissions. So you will see this the first time you do it. It's very much like any other application that you register in Azure. So it's just asking for permission to read and write to directory data, read and write all groups, read and write all users' full profiles, and maintain access to the data it's been given access to. Because obviously we're basically saying this application has permission to go in and change things in your AAD environment. So we just need to give that.
Yep.
Okay, so we have, this might actually be quite tricky.
So what you need to do,
get the user ID.
Yeah, so what you'll do is you add an action above this one, or you change this action to get user.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's try that as well. Let's go.
You have to get grouped as well, don't you?
Yeah,
we
but
can just go
we can
into
capture that ourselves.
Yeah, we can go
that's not
into
gonna
AAD
change.
and pull that back.
Yeah.
So you want to do get user.
Get user Azure AD.
Yep. And then you put in the UPN there.
Yeah, so the principal name or the UPN is what we're capturing in here.
And that list that you were selecting from, that is the feed from the JSON that you've collected from the clients, right?
Correct. So you can see here it's saying where HTTP request is received. So it's actually capturing all of the schema data or the JSON data in the format that it's expecting. And you can
that's
obviously
what you were referring to over on your other tab there, right?
That's correct, exactly.
Okay.
You can obviously just apply to each, and you could put all of that data in if you needed to. But we know that we only need the current items user object, so that's what we're going to use.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to add another action. Go back.
And this is where it gets cool, because Ben's gotten that object, and then we can do add user. And when we select user ID, you'll actually see you've got group ID there at the moment. You want to select user.
User ID, yep, sorry.
That's right.
So we should be able to.
And it was there, it was ID. Up. Keep going up.
Yeah, UPN right there.
UPN?
Nope. ID is what you want. Keep scrolling up.
I'm scrolling.
Oh, there you go.
Identify for the user.
Yes.
Is that for this? Oh, it is, because it's called get user. So if you change the name of this, it would come up as so if you needed it to be a little easier, what you'd do is you'd add custom names for all of these tasks or triggers, so that you could find them later on.
Yeah. And the important thing to remember is it's only going to show you things in that dynamic content list if it exists in that chain. So if over on the no side, if we're wanting to do something with that user object, we would have to get that user separately.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean,
we could, you've branched the tree.
Yeah,
you
so
could get it earlier.
We could pull that up here and then get that data. But it's for this example, we're not actually going to do anything in the no, or we're just going to send back some information to the client that's kicking off the script to say there was nothing, we didn't need to do anything.
Or I mean, just saying, more in a more advanced flow to make it more robust would be if you're adding a user to the group, you probably would want to, if they have a certain thing, you probably want to remove them from the group if they don't have a certain thing. So
exactly. Yes.
So that would be the continuation of that. So that's cool.
Completely, yeah. And I look, the thing I like so much about Power Automate is it's the exact same logic that I have when I'm writing a PowerShell script for these sort of things. It just allows me to actually essentially whiteboard my design without having to worry about the syntax. So, for people that are just getting into automation or scripting, it's a really good way to sort of understand that logic because it permeates and is above any language that you really work with.
Yep.
If statements, for statements, loops, things like that, they can be complicated to understand, but if you can see how they look, that sort of helps get over that barrier a little bit.
So it's the whole process diagramming.
Exactly.
And so just talking in those terms, so just conceptually, if we're looking at what you're doing here, you're doing a new group.
No spaces in a group name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because everybody loves spaces in
underscores, not dashes, Mr. Tabs, not spaces.
What?
Come on.
Like that? You happy?
Yeah.
You happy now?
Yeah.
We are. Well,
yeah.
yes.
All right. As long as you're happy, that's really all that matters.
But pause here for a moment. Okay, so if we wanted to make this a more dynamic flow, and I know that in the previous video you said this was kind of a one-time use throwaway kind of thing, but let's say this was a more reusable thing. So you say, I want to create a security group based on X number or on these apps. I want to create a group if it doesn't exist and add users to it or remove users from it. So in the same way, you could right here, you could check for the existence of a group and then create the group and all those things. So you could build all of this stuff, and then I assume you could even have an input at the top where you could specify a group name if you wanted to do that and say either create or add to this group if it exists. And that's correct. So like this is just extrapolating out how quickly you could, build a very robust flow here.
And even to take that to the next level, Adam, what you could do is you could have another table store that has group ID to application name. So it automatically gets added to that group. So then it would check up that group, make sure it's in that member, and then go and add it if it's not.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So this, I mean, people maybe at a higher level, sometimes I've found that they dismiss Power Automate as being a like a beginner way to programmatically, create workflows and things, but it's really not. At the basic, the simple fact of the matter is it has logic operators, therefore it can be as complex as you want.
Yep.
There was a point that it didn't have conditions, it didn't have those sort of things, and sure, I would tend to agree. But now with the simple fact that I can do nested conditional logic tests, it's as powerful as any language, and it's visual.
And the big thing for me with Power Automate is that it's just the little brother of Logic Apps, which is enterprise grade platforms, right?
Yeah.
The main difference between the two of them is the Logic App has full code check-in, whereas Power Automate doesn't at the moment.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so obviously, as we've talked about that we could dynamically create the groups and all that sort of stuff, but for this example, we really don't need to show that. So I've just gone ahead and created the security group. I've got the object ID of it, and we're just going to go in and go add the user to the group. So we've got the user ID programmatically from this task, and the group ID we're just going to paste in here. So in theory, let's do it. Let's do a thing. HTTP return.
Yeah, I mean, even like, so I'm looking at it saying, okay, so later I'm going to look at this and say, I don't know what that group ID correlates to and that kind of thing. So like, so for me, I would probably put the group name in a get group step and then pull the ID from it, just so that, but I mean, leave it like it is. I'm not saying change it, but for readability later, I think that's a design.
Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, like with the get user, you'd have the get group, and then you'd simply just grab the dynamic data.
I know you're trying to do a quick and dirty thing, so sorry, keep going.
That's okay. That's fine, man. So I just want to see if we can return some data quickly, but we really probably don't even need to. No. Let's not worry. So we're not going to do anything if the object doesn't have this product. So we're just gonna. It's a simple path. If it's just going to hit a roadblock, it's not going to error out. It's just not going to do anything. So in theory, that's all we need to do. So if we just save that.
Yep. So one of the things we could do while we're going through and Ben's running this test case is we could also use this as a way of checking to make sure if you should have an application installed, and if you shouldn't, return back an uninstallation string from to execute from the engine.
The other thing that you would do, Steve, is you would have the uninstall of your Win32 app tied to a security group. And if you're not meant to have that app, just add them to that group, and it's going to kick off that uninstall for you. So like you don't even need to handle the programmatic approach.
So this past week we were deploying Teams to our enterprise. I know we're a little late to that, but we did it. So
go to
part of that was trying to determine, okay, so the installer is like this machine-wide installer, and then you have did the user install it? I don't know, did they? And you have to go and inventory the user profiles, and Config Manager doesn't natively pick up the user installed stuff. And so I wrote PowerShell to loop through all the uninstall keys. And so I said, well, while I'm here, I might as well get all the user installed apps per user. And so now I've got that in a custom inventory, including the uninstall strings. And that's exactly what my next thought was, oh, wow, cool. So, yeah, we could, as part of a configuration item, we could just detect this and go ahead and perform uninstalls if it's not in a list that we approve of.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
the only thing that you miss out with the uninstall strings is if they're silent or not. So by default, all
not
applications.
my problem. You shouldn't have installed it anyway.
Spoken like a true config manager admin. Fantastic.
Why do I care?
Exactly. Now, I could have sort of bounced through this while we were talking, but I wanted to show. So when we were doing the custom inventory and we went into the test flow, this was grayed out, and that's because it had never run before. So if you select this, you can now actually go through all of the previous runs and use that data as your test, which is kind of cool, so that you don't need to sort of generate your own data each time. In this case, I am going to perform it myself because I've added some custom stuff. I've added like Adam into the group to do the tests and stuff. So feel included, Adam.
I am. Thank you.
Excellent. So we're going to save and test. Now it's just sitting there. We'll just wait for it to pop up. Okay, so now it's sitting there waiting for the input from myself. So I'm going to pop over to my PowerShell. You can see here I've just got some dummy data here. I've got myself with that application. I've made sure that Steve doesn't have the app, and then I've also made sure that Adam does have the app. So in theory, both of us are now going to be added to that security group, and Steve is not. So let's just,
I'd do the same.
Yeah, exactly. So would I. So all right, so we're just going to run this. And if we pop back over to our flow is running. So we can see it's stepping through each one. And it actually shows us how long it's taking as well, which is great.
Yep.
Flow ran successfully. And what we can actually do here is we can step through each part of this. So we can insert or merge. We know that this works because we did it last time and nothing's changed. So it's added that data to our table. And then we've got our condition. Expression result was true. So the first thing that came through was that application. If yes, get the user. We can see all of the information about my account, which is great. And then we can add the user to a group, and we can confirm that passed because it's got a big green tick. And generally, this is all API calls, so it's all using Graph. And the successful return of a API call, especially to AAD, gets you a 204 status code. So I know that this is successful. And then you can step through. So this is just one, but we've got 7 entries. None of them failed, which is great. And we can just go through and we can look at one here. So condition was false on this one because it was not screen to GIF, so nothing happened. So you can see, it stepped through, but this condition was not satisfied, so it didn't run. This was the one that was satisfied, but we don't have anything in there, so it doesn't do anything.
Yep.
So that's that. So
one of the, sorry.
No.
What I was going to say is that's probably one of the cool things about this logical UI is that you just, if you don't want to do something on a branch, you just leave it blank.
Exactly.
So it's much like a lot of the scripting languages, but it's just that little bit visualized.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think it's awesome.
So let's pop over to our Intune portal or AAD, and we'll have a look at the members of this security group. And there we go. So we've got myself and Adam because we have that application installed. And then we can go even further just to confirm that the data ended up there. So we can now basically have this table storage as a reason, or to use a modern term, we've now got receipts for why we've added you into that group. So if you were doing this not in a malicious way, but in an administrative way, so that you had a whole bunch of people that had application X installed on the machine and you did not want that, you could use this flow to capture all the data, add the user to that group, and then if anyone turned around and said incorrect, there's no way, you'd be like, well, I can see, on this date we did a scan on this machine and we found this product.
Yep.
And you were logged into the machine at the time, so we know it was there. There's no I'm not being specific. I'm just being
factual.
Programmatic. Yeah, I'm being factual, exactly. And we've got the receipts to prove that. And you can see here, Adam and Ben both have screen to GIF. He's just some other random things that we all have, but that's not part of what the Power Automate flow was.
So Ben, how I may have missed this in the previous, and I believe someone somewhere asked the question about this on the first video. What did you? How are you deploying the client data collection script to the clients?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 ways to do it. If you want it running on a regular like a schedule, as in like if we go back to config manager, like a configuration baseline. Currently, there's no native way to force a script to run over and over and over again. So if you wanted to do this on a repeatable fashion, what you would need to do is have either you create some kind of wrapper that generates a scheduled task on the local machine that kicks off the script. You'd bundle that up either as a PowerShell script or as a Win32 app. There's pros and cons for both. If you do it as a Win32 app, it's just going to keep trying to install or run that code until it passes. If you do it as a configuration script, it's only going to try 3 times and then give up. So it depends. There's no if you were doing this just as a once-off, you wanted to like run this script on your entire fleet once, and you were confident with the code that you were writing, I'd just push it out as a under device configuration and scripts. That way, you know that the code is going to run.
Yeah. While we're here, Ben.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want to hit the add button for me?
Sure.
Just to show Adam that we now have the ability to run scripts on macOS.
That's unfortunate.
And check this out, something that we don't currently have for Windows 10. Let's just type something in here. We go next, script
Spell
settings.
check. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's fine. We've got script frequency. So in here, we can run this code like a configuration baseline. So we don't currently have that for Win 10, but if you're eagle-eyed and you spend too much time in the graph, there is actually schema data in there to go and change the default repeat attempts times, as well as timeouts and schedules. So schedules are there; they're just not lit up in the UI, and I haven't had time to see whether we can actually play around with them.
That
but it is
like another
cool.
topic for another video. We should.
It does.
We should try that out.
I don't know what the script content is. Would it be PowerShell? Could you run PowerShell?
I believe it's PowerShell. Otherwise, you can do Bash.
Okay.
So if you hit the folder button at the end, it normally will have it limited to the it's all
No, it
files.
just says all files. Yeah,
Yeah, whatever
Wow.
you want.
that's interesting.
I think, and this is where I haven't looked into it. I just have seen it there. I believe it will be Bash and PowerShell.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. I mean, I haven't done this in a while. Let's have a look at Win 10 and see if it's changed.
Yeah, maybe it's just sitting there and we've missed it.
No, it hasn't changed. But I mean, so those fields in the Mac OS, I've seen them in the back end of these ones as well. So I've got a feeling that if you change them, it would probably get your intended result. But yeah, I mean, so to go back to
if you were to look at the Mac OS, there was the option to say only repeat 3 times.
Yes, there was, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, those things are there for Win 10. They're just not in the UI.
Yep, but it still has that run 3 times limitation that you're talking about for Windows 10.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I opened up the docs for this, and so it's saying it's a shell script.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously install PowerShell Core or even PowerShell 7 on Mac devices now. So whether the shell script kicks off a PowerShell command, but the takeaway here is that we now have that functionality, and like I just don't have any Mac devices in my house to test it. Steve, you do, so maybe we can play around with it. But it does seem
we've got a couple of spare ones.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah. But on the docs, it specifically says use shell scripts on Mac OS devices. So it's specifically shell scripts is what they're calling this. This is not just scripts.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so to get back to your question, Adam, the easiest way to deploy that inventory code would be as a script deployment through device configuration.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think this is hopefully has answered some of the questions that folks had about doing the next level of things with the Power Automate. Now, I think that you guys discussed the licensing just a little bit in the last video, but really the downside to this is the whole E5 licensing, right? Where this is, but that's a license per. I assume, because this is a license per user who's got access to Power Automate, not per device that you're collecting from. Because for the devices, like we just talked about, you're pushing the script to the device with Intune, and as long as the device is licensed for Intune, it doesn't need E5. But for the user to use Power Automate to configure it, to build it out, at least that one person needs to have an E5, correct?
That's right. So the actual flow it's not running in the context of me, but it is running in my account. So whenever I make connections into, say, Azure Active Directory or into the storage accounts or whatever, it's making not a service account, but a managed identity connection. So it's basically saying like you need those licenses because the premium connectors require you to have those licenses to get in and to do the things that you need to do anyway. So it's definitely not sort of stiffing anyone. It's just making sure that you're sort of at a level that you can do the things you want to do anyway.
Gotcha. Well,
Cool.
I think this is good. Anything else you want to add?
I'm good.
Yeah, look, I think the takeaway here is that obviously this maybe isn't the best scenario that you would use in a day-to-day environment. It's definitely something you can do, but in my head, after sort of seeing that comment, I'd be like, okay, so we could create flows on a scheduled task or, a cron job that runs once a day or twice a day or whatever. And it's just constantly checking against things, whether those things would be in AAD so that you could have automated workflows of adding groups or adding users to things based on conditional access policies or compliance or even security APIs and things like that. All of that stuff is available for you in Flow. So you've just got to have the idea and you can build it out in here quite easily.
And I think the thing I'd like just to add to this is that, so I started doing workflow stuff with Opalis, which then turned into System Center Orchestrator or Scorch. And I remember just looking at it saying, I don't get it. I don't understand. And they had all these different connectors and all these different things. And I didn't understand. I just didn't get it. And then I remember that I think it was a Microsoft guy was in, and he said, if you can conceive of it, if you can come up with an idea, you can do it. You can build a workflow around it. And to me, that really just opened up the doors to say, oh, wow, okay, let me just try things. And being able to, I mean, in that one is, drag and drop objects and you've got this flow, but it is very similar in this, like, you don't need to be a developer to build this stuff out. You need to be able to think logically and think through step order and if then and building out logic tree things. But that stuff's easy to figure out and learn, especially if you're doing it through a GUI. If you're trying to do this through code, it gets really complex really fast trying to follow all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
For somebody just starting out, at least,
Yeah, definitely.
But I think this is a great platform for folks to be able to do. And I mean, I've seen where just end users are starting to do this stuff because it's there, it's available. They're consuming SharePoint lists to do other things, to build reports for their business. And so,
so like at my previous employer, all of the automation customization we were going to put into Dynamics 365, it was going to be in Power Automate. So that the sales team and the team that are using it day to day have the ability to go in and fix it, and we didn't have to have specialized engineers coming off production jobs or customer jobs to go in and fix a simple workflow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Well, I think this is great. Let's get into Power Automate, do cool things, and have fun.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
So where can we find you on the Twitters? And
on Twitter, it's power_hell or @power_hell. I have a website, which is just powers-hell.com. And that's probably all you need.
There you go. And all the links are below in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about you, Adam? Where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter @AdamGrossTX.
And I'm @OnPrem Cloud Guy. Yeah. And thanks for hanging around, Ben and Adam, and it's been a good session.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks, guys. See you around.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.